On August 23, 1945, the president placed the Medal of Honor around his neck, the highest military honor. 18 days later, Texas put him in jail, not for a crime, for being Mexican. This is a true story that America tried to forget. His name was Macario Garcia. He was born in Mexico, raised in Texas, and became one of the greatest war heroes this country has ever known. But you have probably never heard of him. His story was buried for decades. Today, we are going to dig it up and tell you everything. To understand what happened, we need to go back to 1920, back to a small village in Mexico called Villa de Castaños. Macario was born into poverty. His parents, Luciano and Josefa, were farm workers. He was one of 10 children, 10 mouths they could not feed. In 1923, when Macario was just 3 years old, the family crossed into Texas. They were searching for a better life. They settled in Sugarland, a small town near Houston. The family worked picking cotton and tending cattle on local ranches for very little pay. Young Macario worked alongside his parents in the fields. He missed school constantly. By his teenage years, he had only a third-grade education. He stood 5 feet 5 inches, weighed about 120 pounds, small, quiet, unassuming. Nobody expected much from him back then. On November 11th, 1942, Macario Garcia was drafted into the United States Army. Here is the thing, he was not even a citizen. He did not have to serve. He could have walked away, but he felt an obligation to the country that had taken his family in years before. Garcia was assigned to Company B, 22nd Infantry Regiment, 4th Infantry Division. He was about to become part of American history forever. June 6, 1944, D-Day. Garcia landed at Utah Beach with thousands of other soldiers. The invasion of Normandy had finally begun. Within days, he was wounded by shrapnel and artillery fire. The chaos of war nearly ended him. He spent 4 months recovering in a hospital. Most soldiers would have been sent home after that. Garcia refused. He went back to the front lines, back to the fighting, back to the war. By November 1944, his unit was deep in Germany. They had reached the Hürtgen forest. Soldiers called it the Death Factory. 50 square miles of dense forest, freezing rain, mud everywhere, German bunkers hidden behind every tree. Men were dying by the hundreds daily. The battle lasted 88 days, 33,000 American casualties. It was one of the bloodiest battles Americans ever fought in the war. On November 27, 1944, Garcia's company was pinned down. 2 German machine gun positions had them completely trapped in place. Artillery and mortar fire rained down. Men were dying all around him. The company could not advance. They could not retreat. They were stuck there. That is when Macario Garcia did something that nobody expected, something that would change his life forever, something completely unthinkable at the time. On his own initiative, already wounded in the shoulder and foot, he crawled forward through the mud, alone. Toward the first machine gun position, he got close enough to throw grenades into the nest. Then he charged directly at them. He destroyed the gun and took out 3 German soldiers. He made it back to his company somehow, but then a second machine gun opened fire on them. The situation was still completely desperate for everyone, and Garcia went back out again. His citation would later say he acted with utter disregard for his own safety. Those were the official words. He destroyed the second nest. He took out 3 more enemy soldiers. He captured 4 prisoners. Finally, his company was able to advance forward. Only then, only after the objective was taken, did Garcia allow himself to be evacuated for medical care. His wounds were severe but not fatal. His commander, Captain Tony Bizarro, said it plainly. Garcia had just plain guts. That was the simple truth about who this man really was inside. 9 months later, that courage would be recognized. August 23, 1945, the White House, Washington, District of Columbia. A ceremony. President Harry S. Truman stood before 27 service members, the bravest of the brave. The nation's greatest heroes gathered in one place together. One by one, Truman placed the Medal of Honor around their necks. Staff Sergeant Macario Garcia stepped forward. His moment had finally arrived at last. Truman had a famous saying about this medal. He repeated it at almost every ceremony he ever conducted. The words meant everything to him personally. I would rather have a Medal of Honor than be President of the United States. That is what Truman said. Let those words sink in for a moment. The President of the United States was saying he would trade places with this immigrant farm worker from Mexico. That is how significant this honor was. Garcia became the first Mexican immigrant to receive the Medal of Honor in World War II. Not Mexican-American, Mexican. Still a citizen of Mexico then. He also received the Purple Heart, the Bronze Star, and the Combat Infantryman Badge. His chest was covered with medals representing incredible valor. Garcia returned to Texas as a celebrated hero. Newspapers across the state ran his story. The League of United Latin American Citizens honored him. On September 9, 1945, Richmond City Hall hosted a celebration. The whole community came out to honor their hometown hero that night. Everyone was proud. Everyone was celebrating. Everything seemed perfect. And then, just one day later, everything changed completely and suddenly for Garcia. But first, you need to understand what Texas was like in 1945. You need to understand the world Garcia came home to after the war. You have heard of Jim Crow, the laws that segregated Black Americans in the South. But there was another system. They called it Juan Crow instead. Signs reading, "No Mexicans allowed," hung in restaurant windows across Texas. No dogs, no Negroes, no Mexicans. This was legal. This was normal back then. Mexican Americans could not sit downstairs in movie theaters. They could only swim in public pools on the day before they drained them completely. Their children went to Mexican schools, separate, underfunded, with the worst teachers and crumbling buildings. This was the reality of life in Texas. 500,000 Latinos served in World War II. They fought alongside white soldiers overseas. They bled together. They sacrificed together for America. They came home hoping things would be different, hoping their service would matter, hoping America would finally see them as equals. They were completely wrong. September 10th, 1945. The Oasis Cafe, Richmond, Texas. Just a few miles south of Houston, the only night spot in this small town, Macario Garcia walked in wearing his army uniform. On his chest, the Medal of Honor ribbon, the Purple Heart, the Bronze Star, all his earned medals. He sat down at the counter. He asked for service politely. The owner, a woman, looked at him. She looked at his uniform. She looked at his medals. And she refused to serve him. Not because of anything he did wrong, but because, as Garcia himself later explained it clearly, he was simply Mexican. Garcia did not leave. He had just crawled through German machine gun fire for this country. He was not going to be turned away from a Texas diner. He spoke up. He said something that would be quoted for decades. "I have been fighting for people like you, and now you mistreat me this way." The argument escalated quickly from there. The owner grabbed a baseball bat from behind the counter. She came at him. She beat a Medal of Honor hero. Think about that for a moment. The man who single-handedly destroyed 2 German machine gun nests was being beaten with a bat. In his own country, other patrons stepped in to help Garcia. Some Anglo sailors tried to break up the fight. The whole place erupted into chaos. Dishes were everywhere. The police arrived shortly after the chaos began. They surveyed the scene carefully. A decorated war hero had been attacked with a baseball bat violently. They arrested one person that night. Take a guess who it was. Take a moment and really think about who the Richmond police decided to arrest. Not the woman who attacked a decorated war hero with a baseball bat. They arrested Macario Garcia, Medal of Honor recipient. They arrested him instead. He was released the next morning without any formal charges being filed against him. No charges. Not yet, anyway. The story might have ended right there. But then something unexpected happened. The story went national. A civil rights lawyer named John J. Herrera heard what happened and made some calls. Herrera contacted Walter Winchell. If you do not know that name, you should. 50 million Americans listened to his radio show every single week then. Winchell was one of the most influential voices in the entire country at that time. When he spoke, America listened closely, and he had something to say. On his broadcast, Winchell tore into Richmond, Texas. He called it one of the most racist cities in America. He told the whole country what happened. Suddenly, the entire nation was watching this small Texas town. Fort Bend County officials found themselves in an uncomfortable spotlight, and they panicked. Here is the twist that makes this story even worse. More than 2 weeks after the incident, and only after national media attention, they filed charges against Garcia. They charged him with aggravated assault. The man who was beaten with a baseball bat was now being charged with assault. Think about that. But Garcia was not alone in this fight. The Mexican-American community rallied around him immediately. They raised money for his legal defense together. His first lawyer was John J. Herrera himself, the same man who contacted Winchell and broke the story nationally. He would later become a civil rights legend. Then came reinforcements. James V. Allred, former governor of Texas, former federal judge, a powerful man with a powerful reputation, agreed to help Garcia. Why would a former governor defend an immigrant farm worker in court? Because President Truman personally asked him to take the case. That is why, exactly. The trial was postponed, then postponed again, and again after that. Fort Bend County kept delaying the proceedings. The national spotlight was too intense. In June 1946, quietly and without any fanfare or press coverage, the county dropped all charges against Macario Garcia. It was finally over. No apology was ever issued, no admission of any wrongdoing from anyone involved. The charges just disappeared as if nothing had ever happened at all. The woman who beat him with a baseball bat that night at the Oasis Cafe was never charged with anything. Not then, not ever. She faced no consequences. This happened in America, to a Medal of Honor recipient, to a man who risked everything for this country. Let that reality sink in for a moment. But Garcia's story did not end in that courtroom. He had more life to live, more contributions to make, more history to be a quiet part of. On June 25, 1947, Macario Garcia officially became an American citizen. Finally, after everything he had already sacrificed for America, he earned his high school diploma in 1951. Remember, he had only a third-grade education when he was young. He finished what he started. He married Alicia Reyes in 1952. They built a family together. 3 children, a life built on sacrifice, resilience, and quiet determination. Garcia found work as a counselor at the Veterans Administration in Houston. For 25 years, he helped other veterans navigate their own challenges. In January 1946, Mexico honored him as well with the Mérito Militar, their highest military award. Both nations now officially recognized him. Perhaps the most remarkable night of his life came much later. November 21st, 1963. A historic gathering was about to take place. At the Rice Hotel in Houston, a civil rights organization hosted President John F. Kennedy. Hispanic veterans and community leaders filled the entire room. Macario Garcia was chosen to greet the president at the door personally. Two American heroes stood face to face that night. It was a powerful moment. Jackie Kennedy spoke to the crowd in Spanish that evening. The president discussed Latin American policy, recognition, and the ongoing fight for equality. The next day, November 22, 1963, President Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas. Garcia had met him just hours before his death. Garcia would live another 9 years after that tragic day in Dallas. He continued his quiet life of service. He continued helping other veterans daily. On December 24, 1972, Christmas Eve, Macario Garcia passed away in a car accident near Houston. He was only 52 years old. He was buried with full military honors at Houston National Cemetery. An honor guard performed the final rites for this American hero who gave everything. Today, in Houston's East End neighborhood, there is a street named after him, Staff Sergeant Macario Garcia Drive. 1.5 miles of recognition. In Sugarland, where he once picked cotton as a poor child, there is now a middle school bearing his name, built near the very ranch where he worked. In 2021, on Veterans Day, artists unveiled a mural at Houston Fire Station 20. His face now watches over the neighborhood he once called home. Garcia's story matters deeply. Not because he was perfect, but because he showed us what real courage looks like. On the battlefield and at a lunch counter. He fought for a country that did not always fight for him in return, and he never stopped believing that America could be better than it sometimes was. Here is a question worth considering. If Garcia had been deported, as so many were back then, how many American lives would have been lost in that forest? How many soldiers survived because one immigrant farm worker refused to stay down? How many families exist today because of what he did that November day? Had you ever heard of Macario Garcia before watching this video today? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one of them personally. If you want more stories like this one, the forgotten heroes and hidden histories that shaped America, hit that subscribe button. There are more to tell. Garcia deserves to be remembered by everyone. Share this video if his story moved you at all. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.